All right, so for number one, it's saying to simplify the ratio. The ratio they gave us is 16 students over 24 students. Now, both of them say students, so the units are good, but what we are going to do to simplify it is actually do the GCF. That is the greatest common factor. So trying to figure out the biggest number that can go into both. In this case, the number that's going to be able to go into both is 8. Now, I could have done a smaller number like 2 or 4, but I chose 8 because it's the greatest common factor, the biggest number that can go into both. When I divide each one by 8, I am then going to get 2 over 3. I cannot simplify that down anymore, so that is good. The only thing that we want to make sure that we remember, though, is to include the units. So in this case, the units were our students. So I have 2 over 3 students. Okay, the problem we're looking at now is number 3. It says, simplify the ratio, units matter. It's even has an exclamation mark, so you know it really does matter. So we want to look at the problem and see if they have the same units. Well, the numerator has feet, the denominator has inches. So they do not have the same units, so we have to make sure that we change it so that it does. So I'm going to make this one switch into inches. Now, if you actually notice in my classroom, I have these little green sheets of paper on your tables now. These are the conversions that you're actually given when you take the EOC. So if you don't know these different conversions, that's fine because they're actually on that paper that you'll have in my class. Well, in order to switch it to inches, in the numerator where I have feet, well, it takes 12 inches to get 1 foot. So I'm going to multiply just the numerator by 12. So specifically 12 inches. When I do this, I would get 3 times 12 is 36. So I would have 36 inches over what I already had in the denominator, which is 12 inches. Now again, I did not multiply the denominator because it was already in inches. Now when I look at this, they said to simplify it. So in order to simplify this, what I have to do is now divide. So 12 can actually go into 36, and it goes in 3 times. So for this problem, we would actually have a ratio of 3 inches. Or another way you can write it is 3 over 1 inches, depending on how you divide and how you like to see it. So now we're looking at number 5. This one says 350 grams over 1 kilogram. Well, based on the problem we did before, hopefully you're looking at it now and going, well, coach, I don't like this one. Different units. Well, I don't like it either, so we're going to make it so it does have the same units. Now, the numerator's in grams, the denominator's in kilograms. I'm going to make it so that it's all in grams. So the numerator's already in grams, so I don't have to touch that. The denominator is in kilograms. Well, there is 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram, so I'm going to multiply the denominator by 1,000. When I do that, I'm going to end up with 350 over 1,000 grams. So a little trick if you do not know, whenever you're going to do GCF, or the greatest common factor, before you even do that, I noticed that the numerator and the denominator both end in a 0. I can actually go ahead and cross those out before I do it. So now I'm kind of making it so it's 35 over 100 to simplify. So that's a little bit easier than 350 over 1,000. So now I'm going to actually find my GCF, the greatest common factor, the biggest number that can divide into both. And in this case, that number would be 5. So 5 can go into both 35 and into 100. So 35 divided by 5 equals 7. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Now, I cannot leave my answer like that because I have to have my units. So I switch this all into grams. So we have 7 over 20 grams. The next problem we're looking at is number 7. This one says the perimeter of a rectangle is 84 feet. The ratio of the width to the length is 2 to 5. Find the length and the width. So whenever I have a word problem and there's no pictures there, I personally like to draw something. So they told us that we're dealing with a rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle. Whenever I have a rectangle, you have lengths and widths. So the longer portion would be our lengths, and the smaller portions would be our width. In this case, they say the ratio of the width to the length is 2 to 5. So I'm dealing with a ratio of 2 to 5, which can be also written as 2 over 5. Now, they tell me that the width goes with the 2, the length goes with the 5. So if I were to do this, 2 again goes with the width, length goes with the 5. So the width's going to be smaller, the length's going to be bigger. And just like the way we drew it, that's what it looks like. So what I'm going to do next is cross multiply. So I'm going to do 2 times L and 5 times W. So what you have is 5W equals 2L. Now I want to get one of them by themselves, so either the length or the width. I'm going to try to get the width by itself. So I'm going to divide each side by 5 so that it cancels out over here. So my width is now equal to 2L over 5. So 2L over 5. So earlier in the beginning of the problem it says the perimeter of a rectangle is 84 feet. Now if you don't remember what perimeter is, that's when you are adding all the sides of a rectangle together to find your perimeter. In this case, all of them added together is going to equal 84. Well, there was also a formula for perimeter, and that is 2W plus 2L equals your perimeter. In this case, it's going to equal 84 because we already know what our perimeter has to equal. So now I'm going to actually start plugging some stuff in. Instead of W, I'm going to put in the equation that I found. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 over 5L plus 2L equals 84. Now, I am going to multiply the 2 with the 2 over 5. I want you to remember that when you multiply fractions, the denominator does not have to be the same. So in this case, I can multiply 2 with 2 over 5. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to put 2 over 1. Numerators multiply together, denominators multiply with each other. So I'm going to have 2 times 2 is 4. So I have 4L. 1 times 5 is 5. So 4L over 5 plus 2L equals 84. Now I want to add these together. Now, when you're adding a fraction, the denominator does matter. They do have to be the same. So when I do this, I'm going to put this one, I'm going to make it 2 over 1. 1 is not the same denominator as 5. So I'm going to have to change this one so that it has the same denominator. In order to do that, I have to multiply the top and the bottom by 5. So now I'm going to have 10 over 5L. So now I can actually add them together. So I'm going to have 4 plus 10, so I have 14L over 5 equals 84. Now, the way I'm going to continue to solve this, I'm trying to get the L by itself, so what I'm going to do is multiply each side by 5 first. So I'm going to continue up here. So I'm going to have 14L equals 84 times 5 is 420. Lit, bruh. Now, in order to get L by itself, I need to now divide each side by 14 so that it cancels out over here. 420 divided by 14 is 30. So my length is equal to 30 feet. So that was one of the things I had to find. But I also had to find the width. So now I can actually plug that back into this equation we had before. So now our last steps, 2W plus 2L equals 84. Now we know what L is equal to. We know it's equal to 30. So now you have 2W plus 2 times 30 equals 84. 2 times 30 is 60. So you have 2W plus 60 equals 84. Subtract 60 from both sides, and you get 2W equals 24. Divide each side by 2. And W equals 12. So the length was 30, the width was 12. Now you can actually check your answer by taking these, plug them in, and see if it actually comes out to 2 over 5 like it was supposed to. So if I did that, I would have 12 over 30. Do our GCF, greatest common factor. The greatest common factor in this one would be 6. So if I divide the top and the bottom by 6, I would in fact get 2 over 5. And to be more specific, 2 over 5 feet. All right, so the last problem we're looking at this page is number 9. Now don't worry, this problem involves less work than the problem we did before. This one says the measure of the angles in the triangle are in the extended ratio of 2 to 15 to 19. Find the measure of the angles. So it's a word problem. Again, what I like to do is draw something. So in this case, they say we're dealing with angles in a triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a triangle. Now, they say that the angles in the triangle are in the extended ratio of 2 to 15 to 19. So each of these numbers is like the equations to find the angles. So one of the angles we're going to use to find is going to be 2x. So the next one that we could do is 15x. And the last one that we could do is 19x. So I got these numbers from this extended ratio. So the next thing, the way that we can actually find this is from something from a previous unit, which is our triangle sum theorem. And if you remember what triangle sum is, that's when all angles in a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. So inside a triangle, all these angles have to add up to 180. So we're using that triangle sum theorem to be able to solve this. So in this case, we would have 2x plus 15x plus 19x equals 180. Now we just have to combine our like terms. So 2x plus 15x plus 19x is equal to 36x, and that's all equal to 180. Now, in order to do this, we want to divide each side by 36. And the reason for that is because we want to get x by itself, so we're canceling it out on that side. And we would get that x equals 5. Now, we're not done. It does tell us to find the measure of all the angles. So now that I know what x is going to equal, what I want to do is substitute in to each of these equations. So the first one that we had was 2x. Well, instead of x, now we're going to have 5. So 2 times 5, which is 10. And we're talking about an angle, so it's 10 degrees. The next one that we want to look at is the one that had 15x. But instead of x, we now have 5. So 15 times 5. And that will equal 75 degrees. Then the last one is 19x. Well, instead of x, we have 19 times 5. And that will give us 95 degrees. And wouldn't you know it, if I did 95 plus 75 plus 10, I would in fact get 180 degrees. So that is a way you can kind of check your answer and see if you got the correct thing.